I'm about to let you in on a pretty big secret when it comes to sleep training your baby. Leave the kid alone. Now that doesn't mean that you should not go in and check on your child at all through the night if they're actively crying. Obviously, it does mean that if your baby is self-soothing, then you need to let them do so. A lot of times parents rush in far too soon and sabotage your baby learning how to self-soothe themselves. Now, if you're actively sleep training, then this is definitely going to apply to you at bedtime, in the middle of the night, for naps, and all of the above. If your child is falling asleep independently at bedtime, but maybe they're still waking up a few times in the middle of the night, then it's important to know that babies are loud sleepers. They're active sleepers. Sometimes when they are in between sleep cycle transitions, that they may let out a cry, they may be a little bit noisy, and also it takes 5 minutes for the brain to actually register that it's awake. So being adults, when we are transitioning in between sleep cycles, that's when maybe we roll over in the middle of the night, adjust our pillows, like switch our blanket around, whatever we're doing. We don't necessarily wake up fully, and we don't remember doing that in the morning. Nobody's rushing in to come check on us, change our diaper, or feed us. I hope. You don't need to rush into your baby either, because they may just make a little bit of noise and then fall right back asleep. If you're unsure about how you can detect if your baby is self-soothing, let's jump into all the ways that you can tell. It's really important that your baby learns emotional regulation skills for their entire lives. It is something that a lot of kids struggle with when they're not taught emotional regulation, especially when they get to school. Now, I know that you're probably thinking, well, I have years and years before my kid gets to school, but the younger you teach these skills, the faster your child is going to master them. Now, every baby is different, and their self-soothing might look different than another baby's. A lot of times, I will see babies who maybe rub their head back and forth, kick their legs up and down, maybe they have active arms all over the place, and maybe they're sucking on their thumb or fingers. There's so many different things that babies do when they are self-soothing, but the number one thing that they're not doing is crying. If your baby is just looking off, staring off into space, and maybe you are unsure what they're even looking at because their room should be totally dark and black, and you're just watching them on the baby monitor, just know that they are self-soothing and that you should not go in and interrupt their process. So when your baby is self-soothing, they are calming themselves down and they are preparing to fall asleep. If you go in and interrupt this process, then what's happening is that you're stimulating your child and they're starting over from square one. And then when you leave the room, they're probably confused because, well, you just came in here, what are you doing? So maybe just stay out of the room. But you might be thinking, well, we're actively sleep training right now and the baby does cry and I'm not sure if I should go in or if I should just let them be. Well, my rule of thumb is to give them 5 minutes of active, continuous crying. Now that's continuous crying. If they stop crying intermittently, even if it's just for a few minutes, they are self-soothing. So when they stop crying, you stop your timer and you let them self-soothe. If they start crying again, you start your 5-minute timer all over again. Every time they stop crying during that 5 minutes, they are self-soothing. So you want to let them do that. Oftentimes, I will also hear that parents are unsure about their baby's positioning. You have to put your baby down to sleep on their back. However, if your baby rolls to their side or to their stomach, I always see like babies in the butt up position. I'll insert a picture right here, but it's so adorable and some babies just fall asleep like that. And it's totally fine as long as they can roll themselves from front to back. You don't need to go in and flip them back. As long as you're putting your baby down safely and they're putting themselves in a comfortable position, let them be. Just make sure that you have a safe sleep environment, that your baby is sleeping alone, on their back, and in the crib. Placing them on their back, if they roll, they're fine, you know that they're safe. Now, I know that sometimes sleep training can get a bad reputation and that sometimes people think, well, I don't want to sleep train my kid. I know that sleep training can get a bad reputation and that parents sometimes think that sleep training is associated with only cry it out. But that's definitely not what I'm teaching, and I am helping you to observe your child while they are in the crib independently and see when they are self-soothing and when they need support. If you give them that space to learn this big new skill, not only are they going to sleep more consolidated stretches overnight, but they're also going to have this skill forever. As long as you don't implement new unsustainable routines like rocking your baby to sleep or feeding your baby to sleep and having to do that all night long, then your baby is going to have this skill through adulthood. There is a difference between being responsive to your child's needs and neglecting, and I do not support the neglectful, let your baby cry it out and just figure out how to self-soothe. You are able to go in and support them and teach them this big skill. It's an important balance that you have to just figure out what works for you and what works for your family. Now, of course, if you have a younger baby about 4 months old, and I don't recommend doing any of these sleep training strategies before 4 months old, but if your baby is about 4 months old, then you can start with 3 minutes if that feels better for you, maybe 5 minutes, but just give your child that little bit of time to practice their self-soothing skills. And I say the word practice with a lot of weight because it's not going to be an overnight skill, literally, not something they're going to learn overnight. It's going to take time. Some babies do learn very quickly overnight, and some babies take a week. Some babies take anywhere between a week and 2 weeks. It really just depends on how you are approaching the situation. You can approach it very gradually and gently, and you can also approach it quickly and rip the Band-Aid. It is just so important to know where you stand as a parent, what's your parenting style, and how your child is reacting and how they are doing during this process of learning how to self-soothe. Another really important thing is that you should not compare your baby to your friend's baby or some random person's baby that you went to high school with and you see that their baby is doing XYZ. Just don't even look at it. Don't go there because your baby is your baby. You are you, and you're going to do what works for you and your family. If you're looking for more tips on how to help teach your baby about self-soothing, then click the link in the description box down below for my free baby sleep guide. This is gonna teach you 5 steps to improve baby sleep without sleep training, so that will definitely help contribute to your baby's self-soothing skills. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and keep blooming. Mwah.